Hey KU fans, welcome back to KU Sports Extra here at Allen Fieldhouse after the home opener. A successful home opener, would you say?
Yeah, you would have to call it a success anytime you win. I think it had kind of a weird feeling to it because of an injury that we'll get to for one, but also I think it may be a lot more competitive in the first half than maybe fans were expecting coming into this game.
Yeah, probably so. I think so. I mean, it was an absolute dogfight for 20 minutes. This UNC Greensboro team, KU wins at 74-62. Benton did say that as a success, but he didn't say the score. So 74-62, and yeah, this Greensboro team was scrappy. They were, but I hate calling teams scrappy because that makes you feel like they're not worthy, right? Like they had to scrap just to hang around.
Yeah.
This team didn't have to scrap to hang around. They play a scrappy style, and that allows them to hang around. But they were tough. They were physical. They pressed a little bit without too much success, mostly because Devon Dotson was sensational tonight. But just everything they did was made things difficult for Kansas, and it was only a 4-point game at halftime. KU opens the second half with a 12-2 run, and that was the separation they needed. From there, it was pretty even after that. But KU did get up 20 at one point and then kind of saw it slip away. But again, getting back to the whole press and Dotson thing, I just thought he was sensational from literally second one of this game. As soon as the ball was tipped off, you could see a different kind of intensity. You could see a different kind of focus. And he was playing like a guy who was upset about 6 turnovers and 1 assist against Duke. So what does he do? He completely erases that and goes 6 assists and 1 turnover tonight. Adds to that 22 points, a handful of rebounds. I don't remember what he had, but 8 rebounds. That's more than a handful.
Yeah, for sure.
A big-time night for the point guard, and KU needed it.
Yeah, absolutely. I like what you said about the press, but I think Self made a good point after the game. Just like that press maybe wasn't designed to force turnovers, but it definitely forced the offense to really slow down.
Right.
You get into your stuff later in the clock, that just makes things more difficult offensively. But because of Dotson, the whole team typically handled those situations well.
For sure.
And I don't know, I thought Dotson obviously was great, but I thought it was cool to see a couple guys come off the bench and just really look comfortable with Isaiah Moss and Tristan Enaruna, which, I mean, if Enaruna looked comfortable in Madison Square Garden against Duke, you knew he was going to look good tonight. He looked even better tonight.
Great point. I thought he did too. He just, Self's been talking so much about wanting him to be more aggressive and that will push his minutes up. Well, he was more aggressive tonight. It's still not a loud presence. It's still not a guy that's going to roar like Udoka does after he dunks or anything like that, at least not yet.
I think he flexed, though.
Did he flex?
Udoka gave the 2-arm flex. I think Enaruna gave a little 1-arm flex after an offensive rebound and put back. So
wow.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, he earned it. I mean, he really did. He played sensational. Even beyond his 9 points and a handful of rebounds and assists, he just had plays where he just made good decisions and kept balls alive and set up teammates for points and he's just such a he's going to be special. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I think he's got a really nice future, and I think that future's probably here. I mean, he's already settled into a pretty important role, like you talked about, especially with the injury. Jalen Wilson checks in midway through the first half, plays 27 seconds, probably plays about 10 seconds, really.
Yeah, he spent most of it just hanging out
hobbling.
By the bench.
Yeah, he made a cut in front of the Greensboro bench, and the next thing you know, he's dancing on one leg and he's walking off the floor over to Self, tells Self to call timeout. Well, he can't. It's got to be a player, and luckily there was a stop, and at that point they took him immediately to the end of the bench, and then within seconds, really, took him back to the locker room. He's got a broken ankle. Going to miss at least 3 months. Sounds like they're prepared for it to be the rest of the season, which would lead to a redshirt possibility, and it limits KU right now. They're down to 9 players, 9 scholarship players with Lightfoot redshirting, and that makes the Isaiah Moss thing so much more important because it's a guy who's not 100% yet still.
Yeah, you kind of forget that because he looked
great.
I thought he had good balance.
Yeah.
I thought he looked comfortable. But, I mean, to your point, yeah, he can actually look better.
Right.
He's just easing back in from this injury.
And they need to really ease him in now, though, because you can't afford to go down to 8 players and have that thing flare up, especially if you want to play 4 guards, and they did that tonight quite a lot.
Like 35 minutes.
Yeah. And if they want to go more that direction because Silvio and McCormick are just not quite there yet, especially defensively, then you've got to keep your 6 guards healthy to play those 4 spots. So keeping an eye on that hamstring, even though he played 27 minutes or 25 minutes tonight and was back, looking pretty good, knocking down shots. I mean, yeah, they're going to want to treat that as delicately as they can from this point on. Anybody else jump out to you tonight? I just thought it was a really strong start to the second half that got them that separation, and overall a really strong bounce back. I mean, that Duke loss was tough. These guys took that hard. They were disappointed. They didn't play well. 28 turnovers in that one. They only had 10 tonight. I mean, that shows a team that cares, I think. I mean, obviously we knew they cared before, but to respond that quickly in such an impressive manner against a good team. This is probably a tournament team. To do it that way is it tells you a lot about these guys. And again, you said it, they're just sort of scratching the surface on where guys fit, how they want to play their rotations, who plays where. That'll come in the next month or so, and then it will really be interesting to start watching what this team becomes.
Yeah. Something that stood out to me just was, once again, Silvio. We obviously saw him play just a very limited role against Duke, and I mean, it was maybe even less so tonight.
Right.
I mean, and if they do end up going the 4-guard route, which it's, I mean, all things are pointing that way.
Well, they look better.
Yeah. So I mean, if that happens, he's basically like your 3rd-string center at this point.
Right.
So where are the minutes coming for him? I don't think that it'll be like this all season where he's playing like 3 minutes like he was when he was a freshman.
Right.
But just, I think it's going to be strange the next couple of weeks just seeing him in such a limited role. I think by the end of the season he'll be way more impactful. But that pecking order with him and McCormick could change too, potentially.
It could.
I mean, who knows? I mean, I think that's going to be fun to watch and kind of see how those guys adjust, because none of those guys want to play limited minutes. And obviously Udoka is the guy in the middle.
Right.
The vast majority of the time.
Yeah, double-double for him tonight, 10 points, 10 boards. He did miss 4 free throws. Kind of a setback after going 2 for 3 the other night. But KU got the win. Everybody played pretty well, and there's still some room to grow and some things to get figured out. But that's what happens, man. It's game 2, right? It's not supposed to be a finished product. This is a new team, a new-looking team with new pieces, and they're kind of doing this thing on the fly right now. So they get a week off, or at least a week off of game action. They get to spend a little bit of time practicing and maybe working those things out. So they'll be back in here on Friday night next week when they host Monmouth, and we'll see what it looks like then. I think it's going to look different every time we show up.
Yeah.
Right?
At least for a couple weeks.
At least for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
For Ben Smith, I'm Matt Tate. This is Allen Fieldhouse. KU wins at 74-62. We'll talk to you guys next time on another KU Sports Extra.